Robots and automatons are most often heard of in sci-fi stories, but would you believe it if I say that ancient Greek literature already had a story about robots and even artificial intelligence way back then? This is the story of Talos, the first robot with intelligence. Depending on whose work you read, the creation of Talos might differ a little bit. Some works say that Zeus made Talos, while others say that Hephaestus was the one who invented and created Talos. Nevertheless, Talos was depicted as a giant automaton made of celestial bronze. Its creator filled it with ichor to bring it to life and fashioned a large tube running from its head all the way down to its heels to act as its power distribution system. Two large bolts were used to plug the holes in its heels to keep the divine liquid from flowing out. So long as ichor kept flowing in its robotic veins, Talos was invulnerable. After its completion, Talos was given to King Minos of Crete to safeguard the island from any invaders emerging from the sea. It would hurl huge boulders at any unknown ships approaching the borders of Crete. Any survivors of his first assault that washed up ashore would then be crushed by his awesome red-hot fists. Talos was also designed to patrol around the borders of Crete 3 times a day. Seeing as Crete was the biggest island in ancient Greek mythology, this task alone speaks volumes to its craftsmanship. Imagine a huge robot traversing an island 650 miles in circumference 3 times a day. It wasn't just huge and strong, it was also uncannily fast for its colossal size. Protecting Crete is not its only prerogative though. Talos was also tasked to visit the villages in Crete 3 times a year while carrying a metal plate with the divine laws written on it, much like the stone tablets Moses carried down that had God's 10 commandments on it. Talos was given this task so that the people of Crete are constantly reminded of the laws they had to follow. I mean, a big bronze humanoid entering a village while carrying the Book of Law around is a sight that's hard to forget, so I'd wager it was a very effective way of reminding the people. Talos was designed with these 2 missions as its primary directives, but no one thought that Talos would develop some semblance of intelligence by itself. After years and years of following its purpose without fail, Talos became more human-like through its interactions with the humans it protected. Though it didn't speak much, nor did it display any human emotion, some thoughts began to form within its robotic minds. It would often wonder of a different life, of things that intrigue humans, perhaps of power and immortality too, but it was still faithful to its assigned duties. Talos was the perfect defense system for Crete in protecting it from invaders. That is, until Jason and his motley crew, the Argonauts, arrived. Jason and the Argonauts were returning from their heroic quest of retrieving the Golden Fleece. They had been sailing for days and were looking to find a bit of reprieve from the ocean. To their luck, they were only a few clicks away from the island of Crete, so they decided to weigh anchor near its shore. The crew had heard of the bronze giant protecting Crete's borders, but they were too exhausted to find another patch of land and decided to try their luck in bypassing the automaton undetected on a rowboat and find some rest on land. Traveling with Jason and the Argonauts was Medea, the sorceress that helped the crew in their final endeavor to retrieve the Golden Fleece. In addition to her magical prowess, Medea was also known to be witty and cunning. As the crew's rowboat was nearing Crete's shore, Talos reared its gigantic bronze head from behind the cliffside, overshadowing the rowboat and its passengers. Everyone on board was stricken with fear, everyone except Jason and Medea. As Talos displayed its full height to them, Medea spotted something shining around the area of Talos' ankle. She had suspected that it was a design flaw from its creation, and she was willing to bet the life of the entire crew on her hunch. So she calmed everyone down and asked Jason to come with her ashore to talk with the robot. As they came ashore, Talos was already gearing up and heating its whole body in preparation to smother them with his fists. But Medea immediately spoke out and begged Talos to hear her out. Remember how Talos had developed human emotions and thoughts over the years? Medea made a proposition to Talos that she'd give him immortality in exchange for the bolts in his ankles. Talos wasn't created to defend itself, so it had no notion of self-preservation. Seeing as it was a colossal bronze automaton, nothing had come to mind during its creation that would require Talos to have any self-preservation mechanism. Simply put, nothing was strong enough to withstand Talos' might. Now Talos' growing intelligence had developed curiosity, and his curiosity was influenced by the humans it protected. Talos had become curious to the idea of immortality, and maybe deep down in its metallic core, it had also developed a desire for it. Because of that, Talos agreed to Medea's proposition, unaware that removing the bolts in his ankles would unleash the ichor, Talos' lifeblood, from its veins. As soon as Talos agreed, Medea asked Jason to remove the huge bolts from Talos' ankles while she muttered some incantation. Of course, Medea was merely performing. She had tricked Talos into believing that she could truthfully bestow upon it immortality. Talos wasn't smart enough to realize that immortality was coveted by humans because they were unattainable. If Medea really were able to grant immortality, Talos would have probably heard of such news from one of the humans in the villages. And so, as Medea was uttering gibberish in front of Talos, Jason successfully removed the bolts, letting all the ichor powering Talos to life flow out like molten lava. As the ichor drains out of Talos completely, it finally shuts down. After years of unfailingly performing its duty, Talos finally had its rest. While nothing the mortals created ever came close to the might of Talos physically, it was defeated by mere trickery of the mind. No one really knows what went through Talos' mind during its last moments. Some works of ancient Greek depicted a single bronze tear falling from Talos' eyes as it died. Understandably, it was a huge gamble if Talos' creator had imbued it with any more intelligence. With high enough intelligence, it might become sentient and gain a will of its own. But in the end, the absence of intelligence proved to be its downfall. Though one might argue that Talos' decision in its final moments to accept an offer made by Medea was Talos finally gaining a will of its own, I can't help but wonder if Talos had been assigned a human partner or even a minor god, things might have turned out differently. That concludes the story of Talos, one of the earliest conceptions of a robot in literature. Talos' story is perhaps one of the most relevant in these times specifically. Back then, robots, automatons, and AI were things of fantasy and fiction, but now it's ever present in our daily lives. These themes have been depicted many times in modern media and pop culture, sometimes in a good way, but more often as a cautionary tale.